at the issue of the revenue profile of the state, which you heard has gone up to 10 billion naira or 12 billion naira monthly under the present administration, the highest so far in the state. Let me get your take on these.
Well, let's land on the issue of AAU and the education system. First of all, Godwin Obaseki was a governor that cared about education. We saw how he was celebrated all over the world with the transformation, that he brought to education. But to sit with the issue of the AAU, you see, I found it very unreasonable that all through the years, Oshomole, professed yesterday to have given them 250 million. Was there any infrastructure built by the school administration all through those years? There was none. There was the money going into. Government was paying salaries, government was paying allowances, government was building infrastructure, and government was giving the institution 250 million. What was the money to be used for? Where is it that government? It was a conduit to make people rich, and we could see all of that as exposed by the committee that was set up, where staff members were only bothered about purchasing diesel. That was a business in AAU, where people didn't go to school but got degrees, where lecturers were known, to demand sex for marks. If Governor Okpebholo's daughters were in AAU, would he have suddenly ignored all these complaints and instead give them 500 million every month to do what exactly? All the infrastructure built in AAU today, whether built by TED Fund, UBEC, or by private individuals, there's no structure that has been built or maintained by the state's, the university's authority in the last 20 years. So these monies that we're giving them, what are the monies for? So I celebrate the fact that it appears to be that the governor has dissolved the governing council that was instituted, by Governor Obaseki, that was bringing some sanity to the school. He has brought a new governing council, but the fundamental issue of poor education or the lack thereof, has it been addressed? So if there were some lecturers that were accused of demanding sex for marks by students and a committee was made to investigate it and find them culpable, is there no punishment for such actions? You just bring everybody back. So if you had a daughter who had complained to you that there was this lecturer who was demanding sex for marks and refusing to pass her even when she passed his course, and suddenly the man has come back to school, how will you feel? That's why I asked, if the governor's daughters were in AAU, would he have done all of this without investigating the allegations that were leveled against some lecturers and all the craziness of financial misappropriation, squandermania, and fiscal rascality? Do you just give them money? And first of all, let him show us the first time he gives 500 million. Let us see it. Because it's not just about saying that he will give or he did. Let us see the records to show that it is true that he gave 500 million. Because I know that those states cannot afford to give 500 million naira, monthly to one institution. It's not possible. Then to the second issue, it is a big, dirty lie for anybody to open his mouth to tell you that Edo State's IGR is 12 billion. It's not possible. First of all, Governor Obaseki met, a taxpayer's count of 131,000 in 2016. And by the time he was leaving, it had tripled to 372,000 Edo people. So a lot of people who were now starting businesses, a lot of people who were avoiding and evading taxation now were brought into the tax net because they could see that the monies they were paying were not going to private ventures like Akugbe, etc. Were now going to government. And when they could see that it was a digital process, where they're not having to give physical cash to anybody, but then they are giving receipt for every money that they get, the people began to see the sense in paying the levies and the taxes that are due them. And so we moved from a paltry 2 billion naira per month to 7 billion naira per month as of October last year. And by November, December, it dropped to 2.5 billion monthly. So what magic was done between December and January that has not taken the IGR to 10 billion? Let me tell you plainly what happened. NNPC and the subsidiaries operating in Edo State were never paying taxes for the last 20-25 years. In 2022, Godwin Obaseki made sure there was an audit on the activities of the NNPC. And since then, NNPC and their subsidiaries we're now having to pay a yearly taxation, a yearly levy to the Edo State government in one lump sum. So in 2022, they paid about 3 billion. 2023, they paid about 4 billion or so. And in 2025, they paid 5.7 billion to the Edo State government. So Edo State IGR for January was 4.3 billion, and they added the 5.7 paid by the NNPC to get the 10 billion. And that's a one-off payment for the year. We're going to know what the IGR will be in February. Let us know the magic that was done. Businesses have left Edo State. Investors have left Edo State. Now we're seeing an illegality and unconstitutionality being perpetrated by the ERS, that we're not having to bring back these touts, these hooligans and mental hobos back to revenue collection and enforcement in Edo State. This is something that the Edo people cried of all through the days of Adams Oshomole, where people who were scarcely educated became multi-billionaires off the back of hardworking Edo people. Where we see people touts going to our markets with cutlasses and daggers to terrorize our mothers and our sisters, to beat up bus drivers in an attempt to take levies from them. That was what we saw in the Edo State of Adams Oshomole. And when decency came back to the polity, we saw them being pushed being relegated to the background where they should be. And suddenly, we are seeing unconstitutional third-party elements now assist a democratically elected government, as it were, to enforce the collection of revenues and taxes on behalf of ERS. That is an abnormality. That is a sheer, testament of madness in revenue collection. Where does that happen? In 2025, when we had digital platforms upon which people happily pay their taxes. Now we're going to have the same madness, the same mess that we are trying to do away with for 8 years, come back to the system. And someone was trying to tell us yesterday, in this case, Senator Adams Oshomole, that those are people in the society that should be engaged. Why don't we engage them in waste management? Let them help us clear our gutters and clear our markets. Let the city look nice. That's a form of engagement too. Since they have the numbers and they have the capacity, how can it be in 2025 we're having to employ consultants? The same consultants, they hate to hear the word consultants, but now they're hiring a consultant who has a track record of causing disharmony, who has a track record of causing pain and agony to the Edo people. But have now brought back this same consultant to help to enforce revenues. According to the Constitution, that is illegal. And we are telling the Edo people, do not listen to any of these people. They are an illegal,
because you made reference to that earlier today. These consultants you're talking about, aren't they Edo people? I remember you raised that issue that the consultants coming from